Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to episode 14 of Fighting Illini Live. We still got some stuff to talk about. We always find some stuff to talk about. So we'll get into it. Jackson Johnson, what's up? What's the rest of Fighting Illini Nation? I am excited to get into it today. Tonight's kind of a turning point for the show, right? Last week we wrapped up the special teams preview. That was the final position group preview on this show. So today we're going to be starting a new preview for the 2025 season that we will also get to visit once every week, starting with opponent previews. That will be at the end of the show today, talking about the week one opponent, Western Illinois, the Leathernecks. And then we're also going to be talking about the new seeding in the college football playoff and how that affects an Illinois team who's trying to sneak in for the first time. And we're also going to talk a little bit of basketball as well. The basketball videos always do great, so we got to throw in basketball whenever we can. This time we're going to be talking about an Illini alum in Terrence Shannon Jr., who is suddenly tearing it up in the Western Conference Final for the Minnesota Timberwolves. But first, of course, tonight's show is brought to you on the Voice of College Football Network. Before we get into it tonight, here is a message from our CEO and founder, Mark Rogers.
You can make a difference here at the Voice of College Football. Use the Amazon link. Financially contribute to the Voice of College Football without spending a penny. Same shopping experience. It's easy. Go to any video on any channel. Go to the description section and grab the link right next to the capital letters that say Amazon. Use that link and Amazon will instantaneously convert to your account, settings, history, everything intact. Just like whatever link you use right now, no difference. Pay no attention to the product that you see right there. Just go search what you want. Don't forget the Amazon link. Thank you for your support. Sincerely, the Voice of College Football.
All right. Make sure to also check out our new website as well. That is vocfb.com. A lot of new content, a lot of new initiatives with the network. So check it all out. All right, let's get into the meat and bones of episode 14, starting with the new college football playoff format. I'm sure you guys have all heard it. They've been debating all offseason about what to do after just 1 year of the 12-team college football playoff. I think it was overall a success. However, there were a lot of issues with it still that people brought up, and that's going to happen. Going from 4 teams to 12 teams, they never really had a full kind of playoff like this, because even with the 4 teams, it didn't super feel like a true playoff. But now that we got more teams involved, at least in my opinion, that's how I always felt about it. So anyway, last year, in case you weren't aware, which I'm sure you were aware if you're watching this channel, the seeding for the new 12-team college football playoff worked with the top 5 conference champions all automatically getting spots, and then 7 at-large bids. That is not going to change. What is going to change is that the top 4 of those 5 conference champions were the only ones eligible for the top 4 seeds, which get a first-round bye, right? You avoid that first round, except for Clemson. They were the one who didn't make that top 4. So you had Oregon as number 1, champions of the Big Ten. Then you had Georgia in the SEC as a 2 seed. And then you jump to Boise State as a 3 seed in the Mountain West. And then the Big 12, Arizona State as the 4 seed. So you had a lot of teams that were heavily underseeded playing the first weekend that probably should not have. Or some teams, that had to play a tough road matchup when they really shouldn't have had to. They should have at least gotten home field in that first weekend. Teams like Tennessee, for sure. This season Tennessee had, they should have not have to play on the road their first game. Same thing can be argued with Indiana, which I'm going to use as a comparison because let's be honest, if Illinois is getting into college football playoff this year with their schedule, it's going to be almost an exact mirror of how Indiana did it last season. So Illinois, I'm almost positive if they do make the college football playoff, they are going to be an at-large, right? So I don't think this necessarily hinders them from actually reaching the college football playoff. And I don't think it would affect their seeding too much. Okay, so the reasoning behind this decision, and also why I personally agree with the decision to change the seeding in the college football playoff, is that all 4 of those top seeds then lost to teams that played the first weekend. It was Oregon was number 1. I mean, they absolutely deserved to be there. They clearly were the number 1 team in the country. I'm not arguing that. Then you had Georgia as a 2 seed. Obviously without Carson Beck with his injury, but I don't know if they should be penalized for that, right? But with the same logic of Jordan Travis and Florida State not that long ago, it doesn't really seem fair to me. But whatever, I'm personally okay with them being the 2. And then Boise State, though, all of a sudden, they were the one, especially that stuck out to me, champions of the Mountain West. Because they were the number 3 seed, despite in the national poll they were actually 9th. So still absolutely deserve to be in the playoff. And I love that there's still 5 conference champions getting into the playoff. That is certainly tricky in this era of super conferences that we're building up now. We're already down to a power 4. You know, the Pac-12 is going to try to come back, and they'll probably be competing with the Mountain West for the for that last 5th bid, and whoever's going to grab that 12 seed basically is what it's going to become now with the new seeding rules. But I personally agree with that because Boise State, again, deserve to be in the playoff, and I love that these smaller conferences are getting their chances. I personally would much rather see a Mountain West champion sneak into the college football playoff than just another SEC team. That's just me. I'm sure a lot of SEC fans whose teams were right on the edge of the playoff will not agree with me on that. But I just think that's fair, and I think that keeps us away from further divulging into this era of super conferences that I really don't enjoy. There was a poll on the channel that was posted this week talking about what do you think is the biggest problem plaguing college football right now. There's obviously, it's kind of a downtime college football, right? Besides this playoff, which is very exciting, but between the transfer portal and realignment things, a lot of people are unhappy. So that was a poll that went out. I voted for realignment. I think realignment is a huge problem. We have a power 4. We essentially have a power 2. And then, like, between the Big Ten and the SEC, especially the way the SEC has been talking at some of these meetings, right? Some guy asked the commissioner of the SEC. There was a report that they were talking about. They were like, "Why are we even part of the NCAA?" And then he responded, he's like, "Well, we can't just leave." But that's legitimately kind of the feeling, right? As the SEC and the Big Ten just kind of want to run everything. And they certainly deserve their share in the spotlight. But I just don't really like the idea of a power 2. And then I would say like I don't want to say mid-major, but like a mid 2 or like a little 2, kind of like the old Hollywood studio system, how there was like the big 5 and then the little 3. That's honestly kind of what the ACC and Big 12 are in football, not in basketball, but in football. That's kind of what they are to the Big 10 and SEC. So overall, I agree with this decision. I personally would also like to see those first round games not be home games. All 4 home teams won those first games as well, and I also feel like it didn't really feel cohesive with the rest of the playoff. Like, we'll take Indiana as an example again, but also Tennessee, SMU, and Clemson. Right, all 4 of those teams made the college football playoff and technically didn't play in a bowl game, even though teams way worse than them technically did. That just doesn't sit well with me. I think we can shell out 4 more bowl games for that first round of the college football playoff, or even 4 more if they ever, expand to 16, which they're already talking about doing. Which I am against at this moment in time. I want to see it in the long run. I'm not crazy about doing it right after we expanded to the 12-team college football playoff. I think we should let the 12-team playoff run its course at least a decade, like we gave the 14 playoff. Let people get used to it first before we start seeing 4 more teams into the playoff. we could talk about the college football playoff and conference realignment things. I could talk about this stuff all day. I think it's really interesting, and there's a lot of debate to it. I would love to see what you guys have to say in the comments about all of this, any of the topics we just touched on shortly. There's a lot going on, and this is not going to be the end. It might be for this year, the end of altering the college football playoff format, because we're almost hit the summer now. It's time to lock in a true format for December, January. But overall, I'm happy with the decision. Those smaller conference teams, those edge teams, those fringe teams, they'll still get in, but they'll be placed towards the end of the seeding, and rightfully so. So what does this look like for an Illinois team now that is trying to break into the playoff for the first time in program history? Honestly, like I said, they're a big comparison to Indiana, right? Illinois does not have a lot of tough opponents. Really, the only two ranked opponents they're going to play are Indiana and Ohio State. Certainly, they have good opponents. They're still in the Big Ten. They're playing Duke week 2 out of conference. But, they just it'll be a similar thing to Indiana and what they did last year, right? Just beat up on a not so tough schedule in a good conference, and that should get you in. That's what I see for Illinois. Again, I see them going 10-2. Indiana was a 10 seed last year with the 11-1 season they had. And so honestly, Illinois will probably fall in that same range if they go 11-1, 10-2, something like that. 3 losses is not going to get them in because of their schedule. That's why the most I see is 2, and with a win at Indiana is what gets them to. If they lose Indiana and Ohio State and they don't absolutely kick the crap out of every other team and go 10-2, I still not sure if they get in. But again, that Big Ten SEC bias that we're now seeing emerge a little bit more with this ruling. It's probably going to be all Big Ten SEC teams getting those buys now. So I don't think Illinois is going to get one of those buys, nor do I think that they have the potential to be conference champion. I still don't think they're on the level of an Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State. I personally just don't see it. This is still a really good, really experienced team that I think will sneak in. So they'll be back end. But again, if Illinois does what I predict them to do, and the committee kind of views them as this season's Indiana, they're probably getting like an 8 seed, 9 seed instead of a 10 seed. If anything, this should improve Illinois' seeding. Because again, Big Ten SEC bias is going to get even stronger with this new seeding, which is okay as long as it doesn't take too much control, as I've been expressing my concerns. Their opponent likely then would be easier as well. This could hopefully have them avoid having to go on the road. Like if they could grab the 7 seed, the 8 seed, have a home game in Champaign, that would be absolutely electric. That would change this program entirely. Even if they lost, just to put Illinois on the map like that and get a home playoff game on campus is going to completely change the way people view this program. But again, this won't affect their actual chances of getting in, just the seeding. And I do think this is good for Illinois. It's nothing major, but if they do get into the playoff, this is going to play to their advantage, help them bump up a couple seeds, right? Because those lower conference teams are going to be seated lower. Like the Big 12 ACC team, none of them are going to be seated ahead of Illinois unless one of them is ridiculously good, right? It's certainly possible, but I think they're going to have to be really impressive to get seated ahead of an SEC team or a Big Ten team. That's just kind of how it is right now. All right, so let me know your thoughts on that. There's so much more I could say about this topic, honestly, not even in relation to Illinois. I think it's incredibly interesting. But we're going to move on because we're already halfway through the show. Next, we're going to talk basketball. We're going to switch it up here in the middle. I'm going to talk quickly about Terrence Shannon Jr. And what he has been doing for the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals. If you are not a huge NBA fan, I know my dad's going to watch this. He has no idea what's going on in the NBA, so I'll fill you in real quick, Dad and others. Minnesota Timberwolves are in the Western Conference Final for the second year in a row. And Terrence Shannon Jr. has gotten some extra minutes in game 3 and 4. A lot more minutes than he typically saw, especially in the regular season. Regular season average, he had 10.6 minutes. So he got 4.3 points per game. He got a rebound and a half and 1 assist on 48% shooting. Certainly not bad. Just again, he's a rookie, but he was a low end. He was the 27th overall pick, right? So he's still towards the end of the first round, which is essentially the middle of the draft, in the 2-round NBA draft. It's just crazy. And the Timberwolves are stacked, especially at guard play too, with Anthony Edwards. And then Rob Dillingham, who was supposed to have a bigger role than he actually has. Terrence Shannon Jr. might usurp him and take his minutes going forward the way he's been playing on a big stage too. So the Wolves are down 3-1. They're playing the Thunder. That game is actually at 7:30 Central Time, 8:30 Eastern Time tonight. So as soon as the show is over, you can watch Terrence Shannon Jr. Hopefully he gets even more minutes. Because in game 3, right, that's the game the Wolves dominated this game. That's their one win. They won by 42 at home. Crazy good. He had 15 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist on 62.5% shooting. That was in 13 minutes. 15 points in 13 minutes is damn good. And then he did it again in game 4. He had 8 minutes, scored 9 points. The last 2 games, not only has he got increased minutes, he has scored more points than he's had minutes. And in game 3, he was the 3rd highest scorer on the Timberwolves. It was 15, right? He outscored everyone on the Thunder, including the MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who only put up 14 in his 28 minutes. I love to see Terrence Shannon Jr. dominating in the spotlight. Big stage. I mean, we as a lot of fans knew he had it in him, but I'm really happy that he's getting his chance to shine now. Not only on a crowded team, but in the clutch too. I mean, Western Conference Finals, that and the East Conference Finals, that's the second biggest stage in basketball besides the actual NBA Finals. That's where the best basketball in the world is being played. And he's been fantastic. They are down 3-1. But I'm really excited, especially his game 3 performance got a lot of traction on social media. Like Wolves fans, NBA fans are starting to notice him now after that because it was a big game and he was a big part of why I'm going to say a big part why they won that game, right? They dominated start to finish, right? So it's not really going to come down to one player in a game like that, a 42-point win. But I mean, that's the thing that was different in game 3. Of course, he put up good stuff in game 4 as well. Game 4 was a little closer though, so that's why he didn't get as many minutes, but still an increase in minutes. In game 2, he didn't even play in game 1. In game 2, he only got 2 minutes where he scored 2 points. So to see him get those minutes in a blowout game and really use them well, that got him minutes in a close game 4. And I'm really hope that they're playing him again tonight a lot. I would imagine they would play him a good amount, somewhere around like 10 minutes. And they are facing elimination and they are on the road now. I don't know how that's going to affect his playing time, but it really shouldn't. He's been really good and he's going to be a bright spot for Minnesota for years to come. He could make a nice backcourt tandem with Anthony Edwards. So I just love to see Illini success. Same thing with Ayo Dosunmu on the Bulls, but I think Terrence Shannon Jr. has potential to be more than just a role player. He can be really good and has been showing that in the Western Conference Final. So as soon as this is over, head over to ESPN, check out Game 5 of the Western Conference Final. Let's see if Terrence Shannon gets some good minutes tonight and once again scores more points than he gets minutes. All right. Final 10 minutes here. We are going to shift back to the gridiron. We are now going to talk about Illinois' first opponent. The next 12 weeks, I guess it'll be. We're going to be talking about every Illinois opponent in order, a little bit what you should know going into the season, what we know about them right now, It's been a minute since I've looked at the schedule, right? I did that cold schedule reaction in the very first episode, which if you missed that, if you are not there on week 1, you can still check out the video. It is posted separately on the channel, or just watch the whole live stream, of course. Yeah, now we're going to start talking about opponents, get more in depth. And then when we're done with all these, take a look at what, I'll take a look at the schedule again. By that time, we'll be hitting like mid-July. So maybe even August. It'll be almost time for the season, because the season starts on August 29th at home against the Western Illinois Leathernecks. Western Illinois hails from the Big South / Ohio Valley Conference in the FCS. They combine the two for football. And again, it'll be that Friday night game. Western the next week is going to play at Northwestern. That'll be on September 6th. So that's interesting. That'll be in the air. Maybe I'll check that out after Illinois beats them down. So last season, they were 4-8 in the OVC Big South. They were 3-5. They were 1-6 in road games, however, which is where Illinois will be catching them, which is pretty good. But actually, 4-8 was a huge season for Western Illinois, because, wow, I was doing some research on this program. They have had a rough go. They've had a real rough go. 4-48 was a really good season for them based on what the 5 years prior looked like. Under a new coach, Joe Davis, their offense definitely took a surge last season, and that's why they got the 4 wins, which from 2019 to 2023, in a 51-game span, they only managed 4 wins. And those entire, in 5, they were 4-47 from 2019 until 2023. This quite literally, I think, was the worst program in all of college football for a long time, until last year. I don't think they're that. Going 4-8 doesn't make you a worse program, even in the FCS. In 2023, 0-11. Those last 6 games of 2023, they did not even break double digits. And the one before that, they scored exactly 10. 2022, 0-11. They did play one Big Ten opponent that year. That was Minnesota. They lost 62-10. Back-to-back winless seasons going into this season. 2021, 2-9. 2020, they had a weird COVID-shortened spring season. They went 1-5. 1-11 in 2019. 2018, they were 5-6 actually. Before it all started. That's actually the last time they played Illinois as well. They played us in Champaign. Illinois won 34-14, and that was when Illinois still was not very good. Illinois went 4-8 that year, and were able to beat them by 20. And that was that's still a better Western Illinois team than I think we're going to see this year. Their last winning season was 2017. Then they were 8-4 then. Just an awful. So 4-8 is still not good, but it almost feels like they broke out of this awful cycle. 4 wins in 5 years, including back-to-back winless seasons at the end of it. And last year did not get off to a great start for them as well. Week 1 at NIU, lost 54-15. And then that week 2 game, which is going to be probably the most appropriate comparison of their games. Last year, they were at Indiana. They lost 77-3. The week after that, then they went to Illinois State. They lost 51-34. So they gave up 50-plus points in their first 3 games. Stuff was rough. The only other notable games I was really able to find from their schedule, they had a week 5 win against McKendree. I still don't really know if that's notable, but that's a win. 49-32, right? That shows that their offense has certainly improved. They definitely have an explosive offense. Their defense really struggles, obviously, with these scores I'm reading you, though. Week 10, they played Eastern Illinois. I also noted that one since the Illini destroyed the Panthers last year, and they lost to Eastern. Actually, they lost 45-38. So this should be an even easier tune-up opponent than Eastern Illinois was at the start of last season. This should be similar destruction. Doing all that research, though, about their past seasons and whatnot, I don't know anything about Western Illinois football, right? It was really hard to even find some of these details. Like when I'll go into key players in just a second, it was really hard to find any details on these guys really outside of the school website. Like no one's really covering this. No one's really breaking their back for Western Illinois football, which I suppose is sad. But when you're that bad, that kind of makes sense. Like why would anyone be really excited about, I mean, it's for the 4-8 season, honestly, was a huge step in the right direction for them. And certainly hope it continues for them as well. I like to see an Illinois school succeed, just not against Illinois week 1. And I don't think that's going to happen. But before we end it tonight, some key players on Western Illinois as well. Their best wide receiver and probably their best overall player is going to be Damari Davis. He'll be wearing number 3. He's a senior. He had 19 catches for 363 yards last year, 3 touchdowns, 19.1 yards per catch, though, which was pretty good in 9 games. They had a good quarterback last year as well. That was a big part of that offensive spark. However, he is gone. A lot of their key players from last year are gone, and a lot of their guys that are going to likely be getting those starts, especially week 1 against Illinois, are very inexperienced. One guy who has some experience is the guy who is going to take over at quarterback, most likely, at least. He was a backup last year. His name's Chris Irvin. He did get into 5 games. He went 17 of 29 passing in those games, 174 yards, 3 touchdowns, didn't throw an interception. 4 of the 5 games he played in, though, were blowout losses, so it's kind of hard to judge how good he actually is. I mean, he was solid in the reps he got. It just, end of the game blowouts, including the Indiana game was the one that he got into. There's some QB competition. There's a guy named TC Molk. He's a D2 transfer. He was very good in D2. He might be taking that starting job from him. So it's going to be one of those two. Neither of them should worry as much, though, as Nathan Lamb, their quarterback from last year. They also got a running back, Ernest Temple, who I think is interesting. He could be a bit of a threat. He is a junior transfer from the College of DuPage, College of Dreams. He led Division III in touchdowns and was 6th in rushing yards. He's likely going to be their starting running back because they lost their starting running back from last year as well. They've lost a lot of guys. They did not have the same luck that Illinois did retaining their team. Tight end, Brandon Lanier, 28 receptions, 219 yards and a touchdown 11 games last year. Another skill position player to look out for on the Leathernecks week 1. Some other 2 players on the defensive end that stood out to me. 2 defensive backs specifically. Amari Bickham stands out to me. He was at Iowa last year, actually. He did not play, but still he's transferring from Iowa, so certainly he's got some Big Ten merit to him. And then the other one is LeBron Morgan. I have no reason to think that he'll actually be a threat. I just like that his name was LeBron. He even wears number 6. He's a transfer from UT Martin. If he's named LeBron, he's probably going to be he's not going to be terrible, right? He's going to be at least solid. But overall, that's really it for key players. This is a hard team to research. The other opponent previews are definitely going to be more in depth. And adding on to that, though, I mean, there's really no one else on this roster. Truly, no one on this roster jumps out to you. There's a team moving in the right direction, but now they lost a lot of guys. So they're kind of their offense is going to be highly questionable, and that was kind of their one claim to fame last year. Their defense not getting it done. They gave it up 77 points to Indiana, And there isn't much reason to think that is going to change with the offensive-minded coach they have. So I'm really not too worried about Western Illinois. I really hope the Illini just pound them week 1, and that's the end of it. So yeah, just gotta hope that we get it done. That is gonna do it for tonight's show, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Next week, we'll be doing our second opponent preview, which will be Duke. For week 2, that is going to be a much more interesting preview. There's going to be a lot more to talk about there. Illinois' strengths, weaknesses, how they line up with Duke, because that is an opponent I think Illinois will beat, but certainly an opponent that you should at least be worried about, right? I have no concern about Western Illinois. So that does it for this week. Check out that Duke preview next week. I'll be coming to you from Michigan outside of my normal setup because I'll be out of town, but I'll still be having a show. That does it for tonight, guys. Thank you so much. ILL.